Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Alan Law. I'm the Chairman of Eastern Area Planning Committee. So welcome to this evening's meeting. Other members of the committee in attendance tonight are Councillors Tony Linden, Royce Longton, Ross McKinnon, Alan McCrow, Jeff Mays, Graham Pass, Joe Stewart, and Keith Woodhams. The following officers are in attendance to advise and support the meeting: Bob Dre, Development Control Team Leader; Donna Toms, Planning Officer. Gareth Dowding, our Highways Officer, will not be attending as we have no highways issues that we are aware of in the two applications. I've got Sharon Armour, our Solicitor, and Jessica Bayliss from Strategic Support, our Policy Officer. I'm also assisted by Stephen Chard, who will be our Zoom host for the evening. Can I now ask the meeting clerk, Jessica, to please give some reminders to members and to other attendees about the way we conduct council meetings via Zoom. Jessica.
Thank you, Chairman. So member standard Zoom reminders are being provided to you on screen. In addition to those points, if it becomes necessary for any members to telephone into the meeting, you won't be able to signal to speak. So once everyone who has raised a Zoom hand has spoken, I will ask the Chairman to invite anyone who has telephoned in to speak in order. Voting on the planning applications will take place via a named vote. Members will be asked in turn by the legal advisor how they wish to vote by stating they are for or against the proposal, or if they wish to abstain. Please remember to unmute yourself when voting. Any other votes will be conducted via a show of actual hands during the meeting. Unless the committee asks for the vote to be recorded, the outcome of the name vote will not appear in the minutes. So anyone wishing the vote to be recorded must indicate this before the vote is taken. If we need to adjourn the meeting at any point, the Chairman will adjourn and will advise the committee of the revised date and time of the meeting. If it is a short adjournment, you will be able to rejoin the Zoom meeting, otherwise a fresh appointment will be sent out. Do members have any questions about the way in which the meeting will be conducted before we proceed?
No, I think we're all a bit long in the tooth for these meetings now. We don't have any. Thank you very much, Jess. Jess, any apologies received?
No apologies, Chairman.
No apologies. That confirms with my understanding. And now I'd like to move on to item 2, the minutes. I'd like you to look at the minutes. I don't intend to go through them page by page. I've looked at them and I thought they were pretty well 100% accurate. Anybody else got anything to say about the minutes? If you do, and then I'll, Councillor Pask.
I agree with you, Chairman. I think they're remarkably good, and I so propose.
You're proposing we accept them as kind of a seconder. I've got Councillor Williams has seconded. If we all agree, can we just raise our hands? I can see them all raised. Thank you very much. So that's the minutes agreed. Thank you.
Chairman, could I raise a point of order?
Go ahead.
I'm looking at my name, the way it's spelled. It's rather strange. I don't think it's scrap a difference, but oh look, it's
the S has just come up.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know
yourself.
Well done, Chairman. That was quick.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens, but thought, Councillor Williams, the power of thought.
D-poll works very quickly these days.
Okay. Well, I'd like to. I think we've got to move on to the first application. Items of interest, declarations of interest. I'm sorry. Do anybody get any declarations of interest? If you have, speak now. Nope. Okay. Therefore, I'd like to move on to the item 4, which is the first application tonight. Application which it's in my ward, which is application 2100236 Fellows Farm, Blandys Lane, Upper Basildon. And I believe, Donna, you're going to introduce the report. Yep.
Thank you, Chairman. I will share my screen with you. Can you all see it?
Nope.
Okay, one moment. About now. Oh, 1 second.
Nope. Oh, yes, hold on. It's coming up. There we are. Good.
Sorry about that.
We can also, I can see it. Everybody else, yes?
Is everyone okay?
Good, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, we're looking at Feathers Farm, Landys Lane, Upper Basildon, application for a single-storey rear extension in the garden of the property. We're here for the reason as there were 10 letters of objection plus letters of objection, and our recommendation is for approval. The application site is within the settlement boundary of Upper Basildon with an access from Landys Lane, which is out in the countryside. The block plan shows the extent of the extension required. This is what is existing at the moment. You can see at the moment it's garden land with a wall to the left facing towards the neighbours. This is the extent of the floor plan, which shows the single-storey extension. The dimensions to the length on the neighbour side is 11.6 metres, and the garden side is longer at 15.54 metres. The variation of length is due to the existing rear extension here. Let me show you here. The gross internal area will be 77.71 square metres. And there will be, so I'll show you. So you can see here, this is the windows that will be facing within the garden and be cladded with cedar cladding and copper cladding to the top, and with windows in the front. The side facing the applicants will be blank wall, which will be facing their own extension. The rear extension will be blank and be facing an existing retaining wall and fencing. This is a picture of the garden. As you can see, this is what is existing. The materials are going to be this grey brick with the cedar cladding. Mostly the grey brick will not be seen. This is a picture towards the fencing of the neighbour. You can see the existing wall of their pool house and extension that outbuilding. Apologies. Another further view of the back garden from the house, showing the existing wall and pool house. And this is from the house looking along the extension of the proposed extension. You can see from the behind there is quite good shielding and fencing. This is the extent retaining wall, and will be within that retaining wall. And more views of the garden looking at the neighbour's property. This is the further side of the property looking at the fencing. This will be away from the extension. Sorry. Okay, the reason we're here is because there's been a number of objections, essentially overdevelopment of the site, concerns of the risk of subsidence, materials not being in keeping, problems with waterworks, disregard for planting and wildlife, though previous works, there's been a number of works being done on the property. Generally speaking, we've looked at these concerns, and while we understand some concerns regarding the over development, there are no rules and numbers, and the property is more than capable of accepting this extension. The neighbourhood amenity, there shouldn't be any real there'll be no overbearing, there'll be no privacy, loss of privacy, and there'll be no impact, limited impact on neighbours beyond noise of the construction, which a condition can be put forward. Conditions have been given on page 24, which state that we think the only real condition that is different to what is already been submitted is the hours of work condition. Thank you, Chairman. I will stop sharing now.
Okay, we normally wait until we've heard other people before we go to questions of officers, but I just want to ask you, could you show, have you got, on the plans in front of me, we have a proposed, the existing elevation and the proposed side elevation with the extension. Have you got that on your screen that you can show us? I think that's probably one of the most important pieces of the planning document for us to consider.
Of course. I'll show you this is the floor
That's
plan.
it. That was it. That was the one.
There you go. Yeah.
The one before that. That's the plan. Show me the elevation.
Yep, there's the elevation.
That one. Would you like to explain that one to the rest of the members, please?
Yes, we're looking at a single-story rear extension. It does extend quite a while out into the garden. There will be limited impact, but what we're looking at is cedar cladding and copper cladding with bifold doors to match an existing of the rear of the house. This will be seen only within the garden. There will be no real views from neighbouring properties nor from any public views. The overall height is within my report on page 21, which shows that it will be over height of 3.1 meters, which is general for a single story extension, and materials are suitable for this type of application and type of extension.
Thank you for that. I just wanted you to explain that as part of your main presentation. Thank you, Donna. Okay. Well, we're back onto written submissions. We don't seem to have any from either the parish council, the any objectors, any supporters, but I believe the agent has sent a written submission in, although he is not attending to answer any questions from us. So Jessica, if you could take us please through that written submission.
Yes, Chairman. Donna, could I just ask you to unshare your screen for me, please? Okay, can I just check everybody can see that okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So here we've got the submission from the agent, Anthony Cogan from Evans Jones Limited. So your officer's report comprehensively sets out the planning considerations and associated planning balance. This proposal is supported by officers with an unequivocal recommendation to approve this application. The site is located within the settlement boundary of Upper Basildon, a location washed over by the North Wessex Downs area of outstanding natural beauty. Your officer's report confirms that the proposal complies with the relevant development plan policies, and thus the principle of developing the site is acceptable. Neighbour and parish council representations are noted. The thrust of objectors' comments relate to the alleged impact on the amenity of immediate neighbours. Considering the scheme design, land uses the separation distances, I submit that this proposal will not result in neighbouring properties being overlooked or overshadowed. The proposed extension is a single-storey extension located adjacent to the boundary wall with the neighbouring property. Windows serving the proposed extension face into the private garden of the application. The proposed development is a single-storey extension within the existing rear garden, which due to the slope of the original land is set down well below the neighbour fence lines. The garden is bounded by high walls, fences and soft landscaping, all of which effectively screens the site from all neighbouring properties. There are no views out of the site due to the height of the boundary enclosures surrounding the existing garden. It is also noteworthy that the neighbouring property of 3 Bethesda Street has a similar single-storey extension projecting along the common boundary between the application site and 3 Bethesda Street. This existing neighbouring extension affords additional screening and amenity protection for the neighbouring occupier. With regard to the size of the proposed built form, your officer's report confirms that the overall footprint will not represent overdevelopment of the site. The ratio of the building to the garden curtilage is consistent with the urban grains of properties in the area, and the proposal is entirely compliant with the policy aims and objectives of the adopted local plan. There are other concerns that the neighbours have raised in relation to this application in terms of drains, party walls and retaining walls. These matters are all beyond the remit of the planning process and should not influence the decision of the committee. It is hoped that the councillors will support their officer's recommendation and approve this application. And that concludes the submission from the agent.
Thank you very much, Jessica. I think the next item on the agenda is the ward member's report, and that is me. And I normally keep 5 minutes tab on the ward member. Perhaps someone, Jessica, if you could, or Sharon, I don't think I'm going to take 5, but just in case I do wander on a little bit. Okay, members, this site, if you looked at the history, it's got a bit of a checkered history, and it has caused a bit of consternation among a number of the neighbours, mainly because an approved extension from 2015 was built not quite according to the approved plans, and there was a lot of toing and froing, and that eventually gained consent through a certificate of lawfulness in 2020. I think you'll find that it's the consternation that has caused, and part of the building was drainage issues, etc. You can see carried over in the number of comments of objectors, but we've got to look at what's before us tonight, not so much the history. The parish council unfortunately missed the deadline, and they're not able to be here to speak, but it's clear that from their comments they object to this application in terms of overdevelopment, in their opinion. There's also comment from people that the proposed extension is not subservient to the new dwelling. And I personally have some sympathy with this point, which is why I asked for the elevation to be shown. Others actually are saying that it doesn't respect, the proposal does not respect the character of the existing building. And again, as a ward member, I again have some sympathy for that viewpoint. It's actually a pity we couldn't have a site visit, because I think this is one of those, and Councillor Pask and I tried to go and visit ourselves informally this morning, but we couldn't get in. And it's one of those sites that you really need, I think, to be inside to have a full perspective on neighbouring amenity, setting of the proposed extension, etc., etc. But we are where we are. I'm interested in the fact that, and we'll probably see this on a plan of the extension, not the elevation, the plan. I'm interested that 2 outbuildings, a utility room and a plant room, they are 2 existing outbuildings, and they will be incorporated. I almost want to say inside this flat roof extension, but their pitched roofs will actually protrude outside it. And there's a curious fact, if you look at the plan, that the access from the plant room, which is obviously containing lawnmowers and things, will no longer be accessed directly out to the garden, but through the plan inside what's called a sitting area, a sitting room. It's a most peculiar set of proposals, and I think that may be one of the things that's causing that and the history causing a few of the neighbours to think, well, to question, will this be built according to plans? But obviously we've got to look at what's in front of us. As ward member, I must say I'm tending towards basically thinking that this extension is not subordinate to the main house and it doesn't really conform to the character. But I want to be open-minded to hear what the rest of my colleagues, as members, say during the debate before I finalize my opinion. I'm happy to take any questions.
Chairman.
Councillor Woodhams.
Chairman, would at this point be useful to hear response from the planning officer.
Well, that's exactly what happens after. This is not questioning of the ward member. Then we go
Of course.
to the officer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor McPask.
Chairman, thank you. You allude to the fact you obviously have greater knowledge than I do, but the plant room, I would have thought plant room would be the boiler room, the whatever it's going to be, not garden machinery, not the lawnmower, but the boiler, which actually incorporated into the house. Were you making, I'm going to be cheeky to you, were you making an assumption, or do you think otherwise? There are significant other storage sheds and barns, as we saw earlier today, for lawnmowers, etc.
Well, I think I'm going to ask the officer to clarify.
All right, I'll ask the officer, Chairman.
I got that information from somewhere.
Okay, well, that's why I was asking you.
I can't recall where I got it from, and it may be inaccurate, but let's ask you.
Okay, I'll ask the officer, Chairman.
What is the function of that plant room as it exists?
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions of me? No? Oh,
Madam Chairman, yeah, thanks.
Ross.
Yeah, just you alluded to the previous extension being built slightly not in accordance with plans. That was the same property, was it?
Yes.
Okay, that was it. Thanks.
Okay. Right, now then we'll move on to questions of the officers. Councillor Williams, did you have a question? Need to unmute.
It was the points you raised, Chairman. I just wondered if the planning officer could respond to the specific points you raised.
And those points being?
As you raised.
My concerns were extension was not subordinate to the building, and it didn't conform to the character of the building, of the main building. Those were the 2 points that I've got some concerns about.
Thank you, Chairman.
We're waiting. Bob Dre is waving his hand.
Sure, Chairman, would you like me to contribute?
Sure.
First, in terms of the subserviency and overdevelopment, as members will know, there's no, as Don was alluding to, there's no rules anymore in terms of percentage increases in that respect. So really, it's a matter of judgment as to whether or not an extension is subservient or dominates the original dwelling. So normally we would take into account the size of it, the height of it, the footprint of it, the massing, and the materials. They can all be relevant considerations. Obviously, the height is something quite obvious if it's competing in height with the main house. But with a single story, I quite often find that you can have quite large footprints or plan form, and because of the low height, it doesn't compete with the host dwelling. And I think our point in this case was, yeah, we recognise it's obviously a large footprint, but because of the height being as it is with the flat roof, and we feel it also responds in a way to the current to its setting. You have the wall along with a neighbour to 3 Bethesda Street, so it's kind of adapting to that courtyard arrangement. So we've taken into the account the height, the scale of it, but also and the footprint, and our judgment is, and the specific constraints of this site, that it is adequately subservient. And in terms of in terms of materials too, sometimes using not competing but complementary materials can be a way of emphasizing subserviency rather than a pastiche poor match. So that is quite commonly adopted, like when you have a modern extension or a traditional building. So I mean, granted, a matter of judgment, and that's where we've kind of ended up.
I think I accept that. You can't be precise. There's no real precise measurements. It's one of looking at it and making a judgment. I accept that. Any other questions of officers? Councillor Pask.
Chairman, thank you. I asked my plant room question.
Chairman, I think I agree with Councillor Pask that it's probably, if you look at the plans, it's probably planters in boilers and stuff like that. I don't, unless Donna, you're aware of anything different.
From what I can see on the plans, there are no swimming pools or any such item that might be anything more than a plant. Plant room generally is within the house and tends to be boilers and any other things that work for the house. There are other areas for plants in terms of lawnmowers and equipment, which would be away from the house. So, but in this case, I think it is more likely to be boiler, as Graham and Councillor Pask has mentioned.
Right, and Chairman, could I ask also a question, looking at the red line on the first page of the plans at the back of the agenda? I take it what I would call the front garden, that is the garden to the other side of the house, is technically the garden, and therefore you are happy with the overall size of the garden, it at the back being eaten into quite significantly by this extension. Can you confirm, please, that you effectively believe the garden to be on the front and back of the house? It wasn't very obvious standing at the electric and locked gate on Blandy's Lane, looking over it.
I can confirm that there is a part of the front garden on the red line that there is parking spaces at the front. However, there is garden where it does appear that they sit at the back, at the front as well as the back. And the garden at the back, there is still quite a significant amount of space for the usual garden paraphernalia and playing. So I can't see there being a huge difference with this new extension.
Thank you, Chairman.
Bob, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, apologies, Chairman. Just to go back to Councillor Pask's first question about the plant room. In a way, we would advise you it's probably quite academic because you don't need to label what the plans are. It's internal, it wouldn't count as development. So it's not, obviously the floor plans haven't raised any concerns about annexes or anything like that. And so I think we've not put that up probably because it's probably a bit of a non-issue from our perspective. So I don't think it's something that you need to be concerned about in terms of the decision.
If I could just ask the supplementary question on that, my concerns were raised was when I looked at the plans and it's a flat roof, and yet the utility room, we'll call utility area, and the plant room are pitched roofs buildings. Those pitched roofs buildings are going to remain as pitched roofs, and it was a most unusual design to me. That's what first started warning lights flashing with me. It was most unusual. And how usual is that, Bob?
I think, well, it is what it is. It's the proposal before us. I suppose it could, I'm guessing it may well be to do with cost. It could be, if it's in adequate condition, it might be cheaper. I don't know. I don't think I can give you an answer because obviously we've just looked at the proposal before us, but
okay, yeah.
I don't think it's entirely uncommon, although, yeah.
I've never seen it before, so it can't be all that common. Okay. Any other questions from officers?
Yes, I've got one, Alan.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I've got two actually. The boundary between the new property, proposed new property, and the swimming pool on the adjacent property seems very close. Can you confirm the distance between the two and what details are permitted or will be followed with regard to the drainage for the roof of the swimming pool building, I think? Can you confirm what's happening there? Because it was in the photograph you showed us earlier.
Okay, well, the distance between the new extension and the neighbour's pool room outbuilding will be about approximately 0.4 metres. So that's 400 millimetres.
Yeah, I understand that.
There will be on the rear extension, you can see there will be gutter in between properties, though it will be flat roof, so there won't be much runoff of the roof in terms of when flat roofs don't tend to run off, they tend to sit with water. So in this case, there is.
Oh, sorry, I don't agree with that statement.
Oh, sorry, it's because my only experience. But in this case,
That roof still discharges water to a gutter.
they will, and there is gutter in, but there does appear to be gutter in between the on the plans between the.
Yeah, the downpipe is in between the two buildings.
And there's a downpipe from the plant room roof, which will obviously be inside the building now.
Well, presumably so, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned about those two adjacent walls, apart from the fact, how do you build the thing?
It's the same as any building when it has a single story rear extension next to a previous extension.
Yeah, one's extended already, but the other one is new to be built, and it's only 0.4 of a meter away.
Anyway,
I couldn't even
we're
get
not
down
quite
there.
Councillor, we're not quite in debate. Just keep to asking questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay, I understand, but
I've
it's
got
a point I don't like.
Bob, I think, wants to combine.
Chairman, I think the concerns raised about drainage and the rainwater goods is something really for building regulations in this context.
Yeah. But we can point them out. I've got Councillor Stewart's been patient. Go.
Thank you. I'm probably going to ask for something to be pointed out then. That part of, or a number of the objections have been about the sewer and shared sewer arrangements and access. And I think, if I'm understanding correctly, that is also not a material planning consideration. Is that correct, Bob?
Drainage and sewers can be in certain contexts material planning considerations, so be careful my words there, but insofar the issues that have been raised in the representations, we've not seen anything that would have a bearing on this application.
Okay, so we can't consider it in our decision today.
I haven't seen anything that I would suggest is relevant in this particular case.
Okay, thank you. And actually, Chairman, if I could ask, I guess it's possibly a point of order. I agree with you that this design seems unusual, but presumably that also isn't part of our decision making, because what somebody might think is a nice idea may not be a nice idea to the rest of us. So again, I guess we don't take that into consideration as a reason to refuse. Would that be correct?
Well, I'm going to answer this first, and then I'll ask Bob to answer it. You're strictly correct, but to the extent that you look to say, does that design cause this to be a subordinate or not quite in character with the main building? There may very well be. Strictly speaking, you're correct, but could impact on those other two issues that I had shared my concerns with you with. Bob, do you want to comment?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, you've got to determine the application in accordance with policies, and obviously design is the key thing for planning. Your policies in the core strategy include CS 14, which says new development must demonstrate a high quality and sustainable design that respects and enhances the character and appearance of the area. There's similar kind of, that theme kind of follows throughout other policies. We also have CS 19, which says it needs to be appropriate to its location, settlement pattern, things like that. But I think the government guidance is cautious that we don't apply our own taste, because obviously design is subjective.
Yeah.
We should really look to try to identify what's the local character. Does the proposal respect or reinforce that, rather than it being a personal taste of, I don't like modern on this building. We have to look at it objectively. So you can take it into account, but just be cautious not to apply your own personal taste on it.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Councillor Linden, you had your hand up once, but you seem to have taken it down. Do you?
Yes, Bob Dray answered my question. I was going to ask.
Okay, fine. Any other questions of officers? If Councillor McCrow.
Yeah, sorry. I think this has been said. I just want to confirm it. How visible would this extension be from the surrounding properties, please?
Probably not.
Well, I've had a look at the plans and photographs, and I did speak to an objector from a property opposite to the north, and she did state at the time that she probably couldn't see it from her house. There will be limited views from the properties to the west, and the neighbouring property will see it from their top bedroom window. So generally, there will be very limited views.
Thank you.
And I, as a local representative, I could concur to that. Possibly a few of the houses in Bethesda Street may slightly look down on the roof of it, but it's where it is, it's not very visible. Okay. Anybody like to start debate? Nobody wanted to jump in. Can I just jump in then a little bit at the beginning? I did say I wanted to listen to the thing. As I've been listening, I'm feeling that I'm uncomfortable with it, but it's possibly a very subjective comfortability. I don't like it. I don't like the design, and I wouldn't have it in my house. But that's not a planning reason to refuse. I'm just not comfortable with it. So I hope that gives you more of a balanced view from myself. Somebody else say something, please. Go ahead, Councillor Pat.
I'm not sure you can see these hands being raised, Chairman. Every time I do it with my hand, you don't seem to notice.
I'm having trouble. I had trouble last night with participants as well.
Did you? Well, it doesn't matter.
Let me just explain for anybody watching from the outside. I loaded a new version of Zoom down.
Yes.
And now I've got participants up, but it doesn't always come up.
No, I understand, and the hand's gone back down. Raised hands gone back to the bottom.
Yeah,
all over again. Right.
Well, I've got your good self. I've got Councillor Linden, Councillor Stewart, and Councillor Mays.
Right, Chairman. Having tried to look at it with you today, I can confirm that views of it would be very limited. I understand your views as chair, as the ward member. I'm not over enamoured with it. I'm also not over enamoured by the agent who uses a very strange term. The strange term that I refer to is the garden curtilage is consistent with the urban grain of properties. What on earth that means, heaven only knows. This is a very rural area bounded by country lanes without footpaths. How he can use the word urban beggars belief, in my humble opinion.
It is in fact called a farm.
And it's a farm, and it does have ducks and animals and things, and a big field to the left of the gate as you look in. So it is a bit of a farm. It's a small one. So anyway, Chairman, in a way, I share and understand your concerns and the views of those expressed by the objectors. Having said that, a lot of those, as we have heard, relate to other matters other than planning. So on balance, I would say, having tried to examine this, that it wouldn't be my choice either, but in planning terms, I think I would struggle to find a good reason, a planning reason, to refuse it. I'm not making a proposal, not at this stage, but you can clearly tell which way I'm leaning.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Linden.
Yes, thanks, Chairman. I would concur with Councillor Pass. To be honest with you, on planning plans, whatever our feelings on the site, you also have to look at the neighbouring property, which is an extension as well. So I just feel my personal view is the same as Councillor Pass. You know, I think the principle is there with number 3, and I myself will be supporting officers' recommendations.
Is that a proposal?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay. Does that find a second? Who's seconding that proposal? We've got Councillor Williams seconding it. Is that correct, Councillor? Thank you. Okay, but before we do anything else, I have Now they've got these participants working. I've got Councillor Stewart and Councillor Mays. Councillor Stewart, Joe.
Thank you. The reason for my question about design was because I don't think this is in keeping with the surrounding areas. And I don't know the area as well as you, obviously, Councillor Lord, but just looking at some of the photos that have been provided, they are this extension appears to be a very modern design. It's a flat roof for a start. None of the other sort of buildings, including that extension at the neighbouring property, which has been described, has a flat roof. It has a pitched roof, and it looks, shall we say, more traditional than a contemporary building, which this extension appears to be. So I don't think it's in keeping at all. And in which case, if we are inclined to make decisions based on whether it is in keeping with the neighbouring surrounding areas, then I would be inclined to say that this should be refused.
Okay. Thank you for that comment. Councillor Mays.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm going back to the drainage point of view, which I think the officer talked about, and that it's a combined draining system, which means presumably another owner actually their sewerage passes under or near to this building. And that to me is a concern with regard to the maintenance and repair of any sewer that may go under that new extension. But so that would be a major concern for me.
But to be fair, Councillor Mays, that would be a building control issue.
Yeah, I know, but it's one of the considerations we should be taking into account.
Okay, fine.
I'm sorry, I can't agree with that.
That's fine. I need to point it out to you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know. You've tested it many times before.
Yeah, right. Anybody else wanting to say something? Look, we have a properly constituted proposal and seconded to accept the officer's recommendation. So what I'd like to do is to ask Sharon to take us through the vote, please.
So this is for approval in accordance with officer's recommendation. Councillor Linden.
For.
Councillor Longton.
For.
Councillor McKinnon.
Against.
Councillor Macro.
For.
Councillor Mays.
Against.
Councillor Pask.
Reluctant for.
Councillor Stewart.
Against.
Councillor Woodhams.
For.
And Councillor Law.
Against.
So that's 5 for and 4 against.
Hey.
So it's carried.
It is.
The application as presented is approved. Thank you very much. Okay, we now go on to the next application, which is in Councillor Pask's ward. And it's application 20/0289 full land adjacent to Thatcher's Chapel Row, Reading. And who's taking us through this one? Is it
I am Chairman. I am Chairman.
Bob, go ahead, Bob.
Just share my screen. Can members confirm when they can see it, please?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chairman. This application is for land adjacent to Thatcher's in Chapel Row in the Bucklebury ward. And the application is for a proposed replacement storage shed for tool and equipment storage in association with maintaining the land. And it's before you today because of the level of objection, and the planning officer is recommending approval. This is the application site, as you can see outlined in red. You have access from the avenue. I believe it turns into Broad Lane just about here, running off the site through an associated piece of land, and then it's here. And the building we're talking about is sited here. Chapel Row is a hamlet without a settlement boundary. So from a planning policy point of view, It's in open countryside. It's obviously, as members be aware, within the AONB, which washes across this part of the district. We do have a Grade 2 listed building in Eden Cottage here, and also another Grade 2 listed building called the Old Bakehouse, which is this property up here to the top. We don't consider them to be material in this case in terms of their setting, given the separation and intervening vegetation. So the site is this parcel of land behind the building line, access from the avenue. The history, that we've done a thorough history search because there has been concerns raised in objections about the use of the land. The land in red appears to the lawful use be agriculture. The land in blue does appear that it was perhaps previously associated with thatchers and separated off. But as we say in the report, agricultural activities are not development, so you can undertake agricultural activities on all of that land. This is a survey of the site. So at the moment, the proposal was for a replacement building, and you have that here. So we're looking at the planning history, we cannot find any record of that having permission. So we have assessed it as a new build. So in terms of the baseline, is nothing there from how we've assessed it. There is another shed here, a small shed up here, which you'll see mentioned on the update report. And I'll show you in the photos. And so this is the land track that goes here, goes back to the main, back to the road. And then the proposed site plan is a very similar scale building in roughly the same location. And so this is the existing shed on the land. You can see there, you're talking approximately 6 by 5 meters, approximately. And that's the proposed storage shed. The width of it is 5.5 meters, the length is 6 meters, and the height is 3 meters. It's timber clad, dual pitch felt roof, and with one set of double doors to the front. I'll go through some photos. So you see, this is the existing building. So this is where the proposed one would go, broadly, slightly larger, but essentially the same footprint. The application does not include any of this other development. So you'll see in the conditions about removing other development as part of that, and removing the existing building and the spoil. So that's looking west, southwest. Some of the properties we said about are around the back here. You've got this tree line along here, along the boundary. That's looking north from the bottom of the red line application site. And you can see the trees along the boundary. That's the extent of the site really. And there's this relatively small shed here. That's looking back from the north end of the site, looking back towards where the building's proposed here. This is the land that's in the blue line, which is not part of the application site, but under the same ownership. And that's, you can see, oh, and so I'm looking north there. So where you see the car, that is where the building is proposed, just down the side here. That is, get my bearings, sorry. That's looking back towards the road, across the blue land. And there you can see one of the neighbouring properties, Thatcher's, there, and that's from the road, looking at the site access. So the blue land is what you can see there, the grass, and it's just behind that is the actual application site with Thatcher's on your right. Okay, so turning to the report, Bucklebury Parish Council have raised no objection, but do request restrictions on external lighting. We've recommended a condition 6, but it does relate specifically to the shed because conditions have to relate to the development proposed. The tree officer, you'll notice, also commented because it is within the root protection area, but hasn't raised any objections subject to an informative, presumably because of it's in the same location as an existing development. There have been 10 contributors objecting. Their reasons are summarised on page 38 of the report, essentially covering matters such as size, overdevelopment, the impact on the character and appearance of the area, landscaping, as I mentioned, there was queries or challenges on the use not being agricultural, and also concerns raised regarding light and noise pollution. In terms of the use, as I said, we have officers done quite an extensive search to look at the history. We believe the red line to be agricultural, and the blue land can be used as agricultural. And I just want to stress that there's no change of use proposed in this application. So the application is for ancillary storage for the maintenance of the land. And so, of course, we've assessed it on face value. If there was a change of use as concerns been raised or any other development, then it's a matter for planning enforcement rather than this planning application. In terms of the need, the applicant has advised us that they want to store, for maintaining the land, they want to store things like a sit-on lawnmower, a smaller push mower, a scaffold tower, which is apparently used for managing the tall hedges, and various other pruning, trimming, cutting equipment, various hand tools and a workbench. Looking at the scale of it and seeing the existing building being used, we consider that's reasonable and proportionate. And there is a condition recommended that it is used for storage purposes ancillary for maintaining that land, that parcel of land. So we are not concerned with that being an intensification of the use of land because it's self-contained in that respect. The assessment is from page 39 of the report, but essentially we're content with the size, scale, massing and materials of the building in its context. Consider its position to be fairly well located and discrete where it is. In terms of neighbouring amenity, bear in mind that it's storage for the maintenance of the land. We're concerned in terms of any noise and disturbance being minimal and appropriate, and it is away from neighbouring properties sufficiently in terms of any other kind of overbearing, lots of like that kind of issues. And as I said before, sorry, there's no intensification to the existing access, so we've not got any highway concerns in that respect. Just quickly on the update report, we've just had to tweak a condition to make it singular rather than plural. It wasn't the intention of the application to remove the small shed to the north, so we've just corrected that condition accordingly. That shed can't be used for the storage of the size equipment we're talking about, so it hasn't caused us concerns in terms of need. So we just corrected that condition to make it singular, so that it's saying that the existing building, the large one we looked at, will be removed as part of it, and all spoil removed under the conditions. So for those reasons, Chairman, we're recommending approval subject to the conditions that we set out on page 40. I can't read my number, it's either 42 or 47 of the report, 42, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Councillor Williams, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. Is this a question to the officers?
Not yet. Just
not yet.
Sorry. Bear with me.
Of course.
No, the next stage basically would be written submissions, but we don't have any, to my understanding. And therefore, we go straight into the ward member. Councillor Pask, would you like to speak for more than 5 minutes?
I will be much less than that, Chairman. Basically, this is a shed, stating the obvious. So why on earth are there 10 letters of objection? Mr. Dray says about other uses of the land would be subject to enforcement. Our enforcement officers know this site very well. Going back a number of years, there was now removed a chalet style building in which it is alleged the applicant's mother lived. There are comings and goings at all times of day and night going in and out of that site, I am told. I personally witnessed little mini diggers at the north end, the far end of the site. Let's just say after 10 o'clock at night, Chairman, from a neighbouring property. So that is why there are concerns here, not to mention, let's just say, other law enforcement agencies having shown an interest even very recently. None of those are planning matters. So, Chairman, as I started by saying, I will end by saying, it's a shed. It does tying down very much It's a very big shed for a lawnmower. It must be a huge ride on. It's not a huge land. But I think that has fueled the concerns. Why do you need such a big shed, 5 meters by 6 meters, or was it 5.5 by 6, for a ride-on mower, a push-on mower, a scaffolding tower, as we've been told, and a few hand tools and a bench. And because of the history, people are thinking, well, is this really a shed? But we're told it is. We've got to determine this application on its merits, Chairman. And the neighbour has asked me to point out that the existing shed doesn't have planning permission, but that point is well covered in the report, insofar as, no, it doesn't, but this is being judged as a new application, and therefore it's a shed, Chairman.
It's a shed.
But you can understand, I can understand, knowing a lot of people around there and being fed lots of information, I can understand why there are 10 letters of objection. And I just wanted to explain that, just for the committee to understand why on earth are there 10 letters of objection for a shed.
Yeah, good, you got that. Okay, any members, any questions of Councillor Pask? I've got my participants list up here working now. And no one. Councillor Pask, no questions. I now go on to Councillor Williams. It's your turn now. Questions of the officers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Can I refer you therefore to page 38, public representations? And there's a reference there to disposal of waste. Is this perhaps something to do with servicing the lawnmowers and disposing of oil? I just wondered if the officer, and if there is such a request to do disposal of waste, does it have a condition on it or something?
Bob?
The application is purely for the storage building rather than any use of the land. So I can't, in terms of whether waste is a relevant consideration for planning, in this respect, I wouldn't say so. It would be the applicant's responsibility to the user of the land's responsibility to lawfully dispose of any waste, commercially or however. Sometimes it becomes a relevant planning consideration in terms of storage for an area, but because we're not assessing a use, rather just a storage for the maintenance of the land, it's not been a,
just looking at a shed
concern.
Okay. Councillor Pask, did you wish to clarify something?
Just to clarify and to help, it isn't waste generated from the site. It is the alleged bringing in of waste at various strange times, such as electrical cabling and that sort of thing, that has caused, I believe, the concerns that have been raised.
But nothing to do with this shed.
Allegedly nothing to do with the shed, Chairman. No, it's all done on land. So this is how enforcement have been involved in the past.
Exactly. Okay. I got Councillor Linden, Macro, Stewart, Pask again, and Councillor McKinnon. So let's go on the list. Councillor Linden.
Yes, I was referring to the bottom picture on page 55, the scaffolding or platform. Is that correct, Bob? It's to do with the pruning and it would actually fit into this new shed.
That's what we've been told, correct? That's part of the list of things in the justification we've been given.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. It'll come down in pieces and stored in the shed, I would think. Councillor Macron.
Thank you. Am I right in thinking that this shed would not be visible from the public realm and not really visible from any of the surrounding properties?
I think you'd be quite hard pressed to see it if you had your nose against the gate, because you've got the intervening land, and then you kind of go for a gap in the vegetation between the blue land and the red land. So it'd be glimpse views at most from at the access. As I showed you the photo from the road where you didn't see it at all.
Very difficult. Even
very
difficult to see the land.
Potentially, again, glimpse views from upper story windows on neighbouring properties, but it would be filtered through one or two layers of trees.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Stewart? Joe?
Thank you. Back to the public representations, and one of them is the shed will be used to obtain permission for a new residential dwelling. Is that actually a thing? No, good, okay, because that just seemed a little crazy. So it was just a clarification, really, and thank you, Councillor Pask, for the explanation of why we're talking about a shed. That was it.
I think there has been a few sheds have been converted to residence over the years. I think people just have a little bit of a fear of that, but there's no proposal here to convert it to a dwelling. It's a shed. Some of the hands have disappeared. I did have Councillor McKinnon and Ross, but he doesn't want to do it anymore. Okay. I'm going to go straight to debate then. Does anyone wish to kick this shed off? Come on, somebody's got to say something, even if it's just to make a proposal. Councillor McCrow.
Yes, so this, as we've been told, is a shed. It's hardly going to be visible from anywhere outside of the site. I mean, I can understand residents' concerns, judging by what Councillor Pask has told us, but unfortunately, we can't make planning decisions based on suspicions. So I'd like to recommend officers' recommendation.
Okay, does that find a seconder?
Happy to second.
Councillor Stewart seconding that. Okay, and I've got I had hands go up and hands back down again. Okay, fine. Anybody else wish to say anything before I put this to the vote? No. Well, we've got a vote to approve the officer's recommendations. It's been properly made and seconded. Could I hand over to Sharon, please, to take us through the vote?
Okay, so this is for approval. Councillor Linden.
For.
Councillor Longton.
For.
Councillor McKinnon.
For.
Councillor Macro.
For.
Councillor Mays.
For.
Councillor Pask.
Uncharacteristically, I will abstain.
Okay. Councillor Stewart.
For.
Councillor Woodhams.
For.
Councillor Law.
I don't like the design either, but I'm going to approve.
Okay, so that's carried then.
Fine, thank you very much. So thank you, members. That's the main business of the evening completed. We now also on our papers tonight, we have a little bit of a history of some of our appeals and how successful we have been. Bob, would you like to step us through those, please? It's a very comprehensive presentation.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah.
Members, it's starting from page 59 of your agenda pack. Obviously, the purpose of this report is more to give you all a sense of what's going on there. So, have you digest in your own time. I'll just flag up some key points. We always kind of start off with any appeals relating to housing in the countryside, because they always inform how we interpret our policies are in that respect. So you see you've got one there for 2 Lower Way, which is quite interesting because it's looking at the infill proposals where you have to be within a cluster of 10 or more dwellings. And despite the immediate proximity of Thatcham, it was supported the strict interpretation of our policy there. So that's good. Foxhole Kennels was residential conversions from the policy C4. Unfortunately, in this case, the inspector disagreed with our interpretation of whether or not it was the works proposed to facilitate the conversion were a substantial rebuilding, extension, or alteration, which is what's precluded by the policy. And they found instead that it was necessary the works proposed were necessary structural changes. So unfortunately it's lost, but it will inform future interpretations. And they did obviously find environmental benefits too. The old golf house, again, unfortunately, the inspector disagreed with us in that respect. They did accept that the application was contrary to the policies. This was a large annex, very large annex that was being separated off from the main house. And the inspector accepted that there was conflict with our policies, but because they found that, in their opinion, it was so similar to the impact of the current house, that was a sufficient material consideration. So that's the reason for that one. I won't go through all in too much detail, but obviously happy to take questions. But I think members are particularly aware of the Shalford Farm application, which we all considered and was quite debated at some length in terms of recognising significant economic benefits, but debating whether it was an appropriate location. The inspector supported the council's decision. The appeal was dismissed. He acknowledged that the site's location was relatively isolated, accessible by narrow, unlit roads with no footways. There's a commentary in the decision letter about 150 daily trips associated with the use and what proportion of that related to different uses. 76% was solely for the restaurant. So he did share the unbalanced concerns that we obviously had with the additional trips. And make some quite useful points, stress about how it's a consistent thread running through our policies about increasing choice for modes of transport, so cycle, walking, etc. They did disagree with us on the sequential test application, which is trying to safeguard town centre locations. They thought we were probably too onerous on that, given the disaggregation of units that could take place. So that's something we can learn from and apply in future ones. But he did accept and the additional refusal reason added by committee in relation to BREEAM excellent, because it was pointed out that the reason it couldn't achieve excellent was primarily because of the site's unsustainable location, and was it recall added that, so that was supported. And just like committee, the inspector of course recognised it was a balanced consideration and with economic benefits despite that. So yeah. There's others in there which are very site specific but still helpful, like the appeal decisions regarding redevelopments and settlements. So I won't go into them unless you've got any questions. The other one, the final one I'd probably like to point out is that from paragraph 18, the affordable housing or minor developments, we've now got a third appeal where this has been directly challenged and we've been successful. Basically, our policies require affordable housing on site from 5 or more dwellings gross. The NPPF, as of 2018, so the last 2 revisions, the national policy is that you shouldn't seek affordable housing on anything less than 10. So we've got that 5, between 5 and 10, we are at odds with national policy in some respects, but we've got 3 very strong appeal decisions now that recognise, obviously in common with the whole of South East, the affordability issues, house prices, and how important CS6, our affordable housing policy, is to delivering the acute need that we have. So inspectors have consistently accepted that the local need and the planned approach we're doing to address it is a material consideration that outweighs national policy. So yeah, that's quite good for us. So I'll leave it there, but obviously happy to take any questions.
Yes, thank you, Bob. Anyone, any questions? I've got Councillor Pask with his hand up. Graham?
Chairman, as I always say to Bob, thank you, a big thank you. This is very useful. I do endeavour to read virtually, because they are given to us all. I read every appeal decision, some more avidly than others, I confess. But that, and thank you for explaining Pond Close. I read that one with interest because obviously the applicant felt that the NPPF was the overriding factor, and you've just described. So it's not really a question, Chairman. It was really another thank you. Yeah. I thank you for explaining that, because I confess, when I read this first and I read the appeal decision, I remember it quite clearly. I was slightly puzzled as to why he thought so diversely from us, but I think you've explained it. And please keep up. Please keep doing these. They must take you some time, but I'm truly grateful. Thank
They're
you.
very useful.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, here. I would just like to add to this sustainability because of isolated locations. It's got to have to change as we get more and more electric, non-polluting cars and buses and things. And that's going to be an interesting challenge, I would think, when we do the next revision of the local plan. That'll be an interesting one. I would hazard a guess.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We've finished this with the meeting. I've only got one other item, which I'm delighted to be able to bring back. It's to do with site visits.
Hooray!
So from now on, we're bringing back site visits. Now, there's obviously a lot of restrictions and COVID restrictions, and we've all been informed about that. And if you haven't been informed about that, it will be done so in the next few days. But it's things like don't share a car. It's only for officers and members of the committee. It's not for the parish council. It's not for objectors and not for agents or anything. Lots of, want to wear a mask, sanitize hands before and after, all the usual stuff. It'll be all sent out to you. But we need to fix a date. Bob, I need some help from you. I figure the next one's the 12th of May.
Yes.
Is there likely to be business on the 12th of May?
We are conscious of how tight it is with the new arrangements. So at the moment, it's not looking like there will be. So it might be prudent to agree a date for then just in case, but also maybe a second date for the 2nd of June committee. If that's
Is that when it is?
Well, the next one is the 12th of May.
Yes, the one after that is the 2nd of
June. Yeah.
I mean, the point I was going to make, well, Chairman, the point I was going to make was, and that's what I asked before we started the meeting, was we're in that limbo period, and an email was flashed up. Thank you, Sharon, for although there's no verdict on the court case today about extending the Zoom regulations. So we don't know whether we're going to meet in person, whether we're allowed to. Apparently, there are, if risk assessments are done, there are mechanisms to allow it, Chairman. That's risk assessment of the location. So I think there needs to be more work done, because I wouldn't want business to be put off if there is business to do, as long as we can do it safely.
Well, what I'd like to do, therefore, is, as you say, the regulations may be fluid. They only get better. But what we've already agreed under the current regulations is we will have site visits, but just for officers and members of the committee.
Yeah.
Okay, so the normal procedure would be the week before, which would therefore be the 5th of May and the 26th of May. I'm going to suggest that as the nights are light and we have 2 or 3 members of the committee who actually like to work during the day, that we actually start these visits at 6 p.m. So my proposal is 6 p.m. on the 5th and 6 p.m. on the 26th. Anybody like to say anything about it? Alan, I see your hand up.
Alan? In my diary, I've got a district planning committee possibly on the 5th, in the evening of the 5th.
Oh, that's the point.
Okay. Do we have anything coming to that, Bob? Are you aware of anything?
Not from Eastern. I don't know, Stephen, or Jess, do you know about Western? I'm not aware.
No, I haven't picked up anything. I can't say for certain, but I've not picked up any hint of a district.
Okay, Councillor Woodhams, you've got a hand up.
Chairman, I've just checked my diary. I have an annual meeting of full council at Thesham Council on Wednesday, the 5th of May. But I hear you saying now it may not take place.
Yes, okay. Well, shall we therefore go for 5th of May at 9:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
To avoid these possible.
I'll prefer that, Chairman, because I've got work on.
Okay, well, yeah, we're never going to get 100% here. Okay, so I propose that the 5th of May is 9:30. Councillor Woodhams, you got your hand up again.
Yes, may I just clarify, if we're unable to make a site visit, does that mean that we cannot therefore comment on a planning application?
No, not at all. No, not at all. course you can comment. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You may be a bit restricted in what you could say, but you can certainly comment.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So can I make that? So that's 9:30 on the 5th, and can I suggest 6 p.m. on the 26th? Is that acceptable? Jeff?
I'm just going to say it doesn't affect me, but there is annual member development for licensing committee members at 7 o'clock on the 26th. So I don't know if anybody else is on licensing or was intending to attend.
Okay.
Councillor Linland.
The thing is, Joe, you always get clashes, and it's
Just making you aware, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's fine. Okay, so let's do that. We've penciled those 2 dates in. The 5th at 9:30 in the morning and the 26th at 6 p.m. Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
Well done.
Unless anybody else thinks there's any more business, I don't. I'm about to close the meeting. Thank
Thank
you
you, Chairman.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your attendance.
I'll
Can we just hold on? Nobody leave, please, until Stephen has cut off the feed.